We break down the defensive tackles in the NFL draft next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, joining you, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Johnny PayPal. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and also make sure to rate 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports everywhere you get your podcast. Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcast, wherever. Just search for it. PayPal, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good, Brad. Just, we're still wearing the same clothes as the past 3 episodes.
Yeah, for those watching on YouTube. Yeah, we're going to be out for next week, so we pre-recorded everything literally back to back to back. Our voices are sore. This is the last one that we're doing. But yeah, everyone out in podcast land, you're just like, all right, this is just the Thursday show that we have out here. But guys, thank you all so much for coming back. Appreciate it a bunch. And today we are breaking down the defensive tackles at the time of recording. Like we said, on 323, we haven't signed anybody additional at the defensive tackle spot. But even if we sign someone, right? Even if we add someone, unless it's like DeForest Buckner that we traded for, which would be very hysterical for someone hearing this. But I still think that we would want someone at defensive tackle. So what we're doing is we're breaking down at the 9 spot, what could the Bears be doing? But also, even in the first round, and then second round, is there any talent in that second round spot? And then last but not least, as we go into the later rounds, the day 3, are there people that we can get that might be some gems, and really kind of break it down from a Bears perspective. PayPal, let's get started. And this is going to be our 6th guy, I guess we could say in quotes. We'll fly through this because we already know. I just want to talk about someone who could potentially drop into the Bears' lap, and that is Jalen Carter. And for those watching on YouTube, yay or nay for Jalen Carter? What are we thinking out there? Because Jalen Carter, Georgia, defensive tackle, junior 6'3", 310. We already know the comp is Warren Sapp. He's just this phenomenal production, seen as like the most disruptive player in this defensive class. But we all know the character concerns, right? And for those that don't know, we saw at the pro day, he gained 9 extra pounds from the combine over to the pro day and was not able to complete the drills. He did not run the 40. He did not partake in any of the measurements and stuff like that. But he was too unathletic to finish the drills. Honestly, just very scaring, might scare some teams off because there's already questions about his character as a whole. And now this happens. PayPal, would you get him with the 9th pick overall?
Yeah, I would take it hands down. Honestly, it sounds sure like, his character's kind of in question. But one thing that really got me kind of like, all right, why wouldn't we get him? Is I was watching just kind of videos and clips of people saying before all this stuff happened of how dominant he is and talking about it's like Jalen Carter is like the number 1 player in this draft. Like, I mean, it's just because he's not a quarterback. That's why he wouldn't go the number 1 pick. But people are insane. Like the Bears would pick him with the number 1 pick just because he's that good, So, I mean, when you get a number 1, the best guy at 9, talent wise, I mean, Bijan Robinson, maybe you talk about that guy, but it's like I don't see why we wouldn't. I mean, he's got everything when you talk about just his production, his size, everything. He's got it,
Well, I know when we first started all this and started the draft talk, you were definitely higher on Jalen Carter than I was. I was always team Will Anderson. You were always team Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
And, the reason why I wasn't high on Jalen Carter was because of the character of not necessarily like the character, but I just didn't see the motor as much as like a Will Anderson. And I think now that just gets amplified with what's been going on. And I'm going to cheat on my answer at least. To me, if the Bears get Jalen Carter, I'm all for the move. And if they don't get Jalen Carter, I'm all for the move. Like if he's
Yeah.
available, because they talk to the guy, they have the conversations with him, and if they believe that, okay, this guy just made some dumb mistakes and the reasons why he was not available to do his entire pro day, like they have a he has a reason for it, then yeah, awesome. Now you get, like you said, the like arguably one of the top players, if not the top player in the draft, because you know that you can make him better. And I think that's the big question is, do you think that do you think you can get past the character stuff? And do you think with him being in the locker room that it will be a good environment? This team
Mhm.
seems to be really good. It seems like they would have people around Jalen Carter. Also, Walker, I know, talked about Jalen Carter. I think that could be something good, right? So no matter where they go, I will support that decision because we aren't talking to him. And if he said something in an interview that they're like, "Yeah, I believe this guy. I think that he's going to be better." I think definitely. But let's actually move on to people like I honestly now I think Jalen Carter would probably drop to us, so it's probably more of a conversation. That's why we
Yeah.
spent a little bit of extra time on it where, hey, if he's there, we already know kind of the red flags. But yeah, seriously, I just think it boils down to if the Bears pick him, they feel comfortable with him, and we can't complain about it because none unless you've talked to him, unless you know
Yeah.
him personally, like if the Bears get him, then they feel comfortable about him and they're
Exactly.
professionals. So let's go over to the next best defensive tackle in the class that if he's drafted at 9, it might be seen as a little bit of a reach, but he's kind of all over the board because that's Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh, 6 foot, 280, and actually 6'1, 281, ran a 4.67 40 time. The comp is Aaron Donald. We all know it out there, but PayPal, where does he kind of fit in this system? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I was kinda there's a lot of people that I have not liked, and then as I just look more into it and how it would fit in, like, our scheme and really with our team, I've been liking Kalijah Cansey more and more. I mean, having that production, 9 sacks and in 2021 and 8 sacks in 2022, like, getting someone like that to, like, disrupt in the pass game, like, it's not like he's gonna get that many sacks this year, but, like, the pressures and getting or, in the NFL, but, like, getting that pressure and making the quarterback, run to the outside towards the edge rushers and just creating that havoc, it just makes me so excited because, yeah, he has that elite first step. I mean, he can use his leverage. He's got that he uses his size, I guess. I was gonna about to say he uses his 6'1" frame a lot bigger than, you think he really is. So, I like him a lot. Like it's just like how Aaron Donald is, and it's very
It's so
redundant, but
yeah.
it's like, but it's literally the exact same as that Aaron Donald is. So it's like, why would you sleep on a guy like that's exactly like Aaron Donald?
It
It's just that reach for me of like, okay, do we
yeah.
reach for him that much? But dude, like it depends on, there are some good tackles that we could maybe well, if you guys probably listen to our tackles, I think that's something that kind of plays into it.
Yeah.
I don't like the tackles as much, like, when you get into that second round,
Yeah.
the third, fourth, those ones are decent, but I think that's something you have to play into it of like, all right, a tackle might be better for us just because the first round tackles are kind of a lot better than there's a lot deeper of a class of D tackles than the offensive tackles.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's the offensive tackles for sure. Where, yeah, like we talked about it on the previous show. Second and third rounders, just we're not a fan of
Oh
it. Jalen
yeah,
Duncan ain't
no,
moving the needle. But yeah, that's where too some of the people later on, there's some talent, but also D tackle, defensive tackle is definitely something where drafting in the first round does kind of mean something. You can get some talented people but usually the best people are out of the first round or high second round. And Kalijah Cansey too, 22.7% pass rush win rate. That's freaking
Yeah.
insane. Like we're talking about good defensive ends at like 18%. And here he is at D tackle with 22.7. Like, and this easily, he has the most fun film to watch out of anybody that you can see out there because it is Aaron Donald. And you talked about it. I think when he's drafted 3 years from now, we're going to be saying one of two things. One, people are going to say, well, yeah, he's not Aaron Donald, and he's not as good as people thought, right? And people are like, there's only one Aaron Donald. Why would you think that there would be a second one, right?
Mhm.
Or the flip side, people are going to say, yeah, he was just like Aaron Donald, and we still didn't draft him high, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's he looks so similar to Aaron Donald. He plays like Aaron Donald. He just has that relentless domination. And yeah, with the size, he's not going to beat double teams. So I think if the Bears are looking, let's say, at a Kalijah Cansey, I think right now they are probably looking offensive tackle. But if they were looking at a Kalijah Cansey, they just need to make sure that they shore up the big bodies, right? They have Andrew Billings, and I think if
Exactly.
you do have Kalijah Cansey, you're then saying Justin Jones, you're going to be more of like with Billings playing and taking on two people, and Cansey can only play at that three tech over the guard so that he gets that single gap penetrator type of style that he can then flourish under because he's not going to be strong enough yet to kind of handle some of those double teams. But he's exciting. Like if the Bears
Yeah.
got him, I'd be like, okay, this
I
is
know.
going to
I
be
would be
fun.
I would be exactly. I'd be excited if we got him. You know, it's like we talk about Peter Skronsky. It's like I'd be like, all right, we got Peter Skronsky. He's gonna be good. But then it's like a Kalijah Cansey or Paris Johnson. It's like, all right, these guys are a little bit more fun. A little bit more of a and yeah, I think I'm a lot higher now on him. Of like, I don't see that negative. Like, I don't see him like not being great. Like, I feel like he's good or he's gonna be amazing, like Aaron Donald.
And he's 6'1". I mean, that's not tiny. He's not 5'11". He's not 6 foot. Like he's 6'1". And at
Yeah.
280, that's not insanely light, especially if you're asking him to be that penetrator at that spot.
Oh
Now,
yeah, exactly.
if you're expecting him to be Aaron Donald, you're going to be disappointed. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest defensive player of all time. And
Yeah.
and so, yeah, if he's just I think that he has such tremendous upside because of that burst, because of that explosiveness and the production, honestly.
Mhm.
Um, but let's move on. And honestly, I think that Carter and Cansey are going to be the two people that we discuss at D tackle for the Bears at that spot. But someone that is at least out there, Brian Brzee, we're not going to break him down too much. Clemson defensive tackle, can really kind of play anywhere on the D line. Had a down year. Big story with him was that his sister actually passed away. So a lot of people were thinking that probably like ate away at him. Like he had other things going on at that time. But even as you continue going on, Mozzie Smith out of Michigan, um, not going to be available, most likely not going to be available for the Bears. He's a bigger power type of a guy. I think a lot like Akeem Hicks. Most likely going to go at the beginning of the second round, but could potentially drop to the Bears. So let's talk about some defensive interior players that we feel like they should be available for the Bears. And actually, this is one of the guys that might be jumping up boards. I've heard some people saying he's going in the first round, and that's Adetomiwa Adebawore. And double A's, as we'll call him, or just Tommy, out of Northwestern, defensive line, senior, 6'2", 282. We talked about him before in the mock draft, right? He's always going in the mock drafts to the Bears in the second round. We're always picking him up. And yes, he's a defensive end, but it looks like he's going to want to play D tackle. At the Senior Bowl, he lined up as the 3 technique, and people were saying, I think this is his position. And he was not playing a lot of 3 technique, so he's very new to the position. Played a handful, but was really kind of used on the edge. He's got the size, he's got the frame that that the Bears want. But actually, we're just talking about being small and undersized at 6'1" with Kancey.
Exactly.
He's 6'2". Like, that's not that big of a difference. Like, but yeah, he does have a 14.9% pass rush win rate. But yeah, we've talked about this insane athleticism. When you look at his comp, I pulled this up from Raz. This isn't me doing it. His number one comp, this is just ironic, Aaron Donald. I kid you not. That's
Everyone
what
just Aaron Donald. Yep.
his athletic score, and no one ever talked about this, but when you look at it, you're like, okay, Aaron Donald is 6 foot. He's 6'1", 6'1.5", basically, and weights around the same about at that 282. But yeah, he had an impressive 40 time at 4.49, 155 10-yard split. But this guy's a defensive end that seemingly wants to play the D tackle spot. So he's probably going to add a little bit more weight, and he has kind of the frame. Like, he seemed a little lanky too, that he's able to kind of add in some of that weight. But the one thing that I will say about him, his weakness, and it's the playing football thing, that he doesn't have great hands, he doesn't have great feet, and he really just uses athleticism to win. And that's my big fear with this is he doesn't what's good is you could say, well, he's coachable, right? He has a lot that needs to be coached with him. But when you watch his tape, yeah, he can run really, really fast, and he's this crazy athlete. But when you are in a phone booth with someone, the athleticism doesn't get shown. So that's my biggest fear. And we've talked about this on previous shows. The Bears defensive line coach, everyone had their worst year last year with this new D line coach. And it is a fear is you have this ball of clay, not a small ball of clay, a freaking large ball of clay that you can mold to whatever you want. That's what gets me nervous about him.
Yep. I completely agree. I was gonna say that it's like he does not. Yeah, it's like we don't have that coach and can't really mold him into what we want. But yeah, it's funny how he has the same comp as, and then
Right?
no one's out here,
Athletic comp. Yeah.
yeah, athletic comp. No one's complaining about, oh, Adbara, he's way too small to be playing
Yeah.
D tackle. What the heck? What is he doing around? What is he doing? But it's just like, just because you're first rounder, and Kalijah Kancey, you have to have something that people really nitpick at, and it's like, all right, it's that. So
Yeah.
hey, I mean, it's a great player, and I think it is important to think about that 3 technique and, like how it really fits in this scheme. And I like someone like with that versatility of, we could maybe move him around a little bit more. Um, so yeah, I like him.
And I gotta say too, I know that people listening to the podcast can't see the RAS chart, but as I look at the RAS chart, I'm looking at this going like, why is Aaron Donald the athletic comp? Because the numbers just aren't close to each other. Like
Yeah, they really
4.49 40
aren't.
time for Tommy, and then Aaron Donald's is 4.69. So yeah, they're not really right, but at the same time too, that's what makes him so unique. Like, you don't see those 40 times out of defensive interior players, and that's what makes him kind of that extra special.
Mhm.
But PayPal, so we got pizza together yesterday, and this was someone that you were getting hyped up, and I'm getting hyped up because I see who's next. But next person on our list is, so like we said, the second round. This is someone that we could get, because keep in mind too, we have in a 10 pick span, we have 3 picks, right? And it's towards the tail end of the second round, and then obviously the first pick in the third. So the later round picks, this guy projects to be in the late second or early third, and that's Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin, senior 6'4", 315. PayPal, you were saying, and
This
actually, I should have changed my comp. Eddie Golden's not a great comp. You seem to be getting hyped about this guy now.
Yeah, I've always been hyped about this guy, Brett. I mean,
Yeah.
even when he was like projected, he was like he was like
Fourth,
late
fifth,
fourth,
yeah.
fifth, yeah, and then now he's third, second. He just, I don't know. I just don't think his like negatives and this is just how I think about football, like combine stuff and looking at, draft prospects is honestly, what are their negatives? And like, are their negatives really that big of a deal? And his negatives just didn't really stick out to me when I was watching any of his stuff. It's like, sure, there's times, when he does like kind of get out of position, but it's like he's a young guy. He can learn that. He can learn to just lower his pad level and not be upright as much. Um, but besides that, it's like his positive, his power. I think he's I think he's decently quick, like, for his size, for being 315, 6'4".
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
he's not, like, slow by any means, but, like, he does everything where it's like he gets the pass rush. He has a 13.4% win rate in 2022 with 6 sacks, and then like he also imposes will in the run game. I mean, that's just how everyone in Wisconsin is. And heck, that's why we have 2 Wisconsin linebackers. So why wouldn't we go Wisconsin for the old, D tackle spot? And just let no one run on us. I I really like him. There's just he's got everything. And for a later pick, kind of getting to that late third where it's going to fall to us, this is where I wouldn't mind, like, all right, if we didn't get Kalijah Kancey or Adibare, it's like get someone like this later pick who I think will, I don't know about dominate, but he will definitely do his job, and we'll see him out there like a prime Eddie Goldman, a prime Eddie Goldman, not like Eddie Goldman now. I mean, funny thing actually, quick is I saw there's always those random news articles that come up, and it'll be like, they want you to click on the article.
Yeah.
And this one said Falcons signed like veteran all-star, like NFL like
Oh,
star.
yeah. Yeah.
And it was Eddie Goldman. I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, like he's back. Yeah. No, but actually, yeah, I got to change that comp of Eddie Goldman. I totally forgot to do that because at the beginning, yeah, like he was kind of this bigger guy, strong guy, but yeah, he's so different now. And I mean, like when you watch more and more and more, he's not just that nose tackle. And I think that's what I like about Benton as well. You were saying like more at the end of the second. Now he's been moving up draft board, so you'll have to get him with one of those later picks in the second or your first pick in the third.
Mhm.
And yeah, 10.5% run stop rate, which is one of the top amongst defensive interior players. So, like you said, good, stout against the run. What I also love about it is his versatility. You can
Mhm.
put him, he's one of those guys you can put all over the line. He's not going to be your 3 tech that's dominating, but if that's the case, like you said, if you miss out at one of those top 3 techs, you can add in the Benton and then maybe you put Walker more in that 3 tech, right? But I think that this is a good player that if you walked away with Anudike Uzama out of Kansas State at your defensive end, Paris Johnson as your tackle or like, one of the top tackles and Keanu Benton at D tackle, you're going, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because you just got basically 3 starters, 3 good players that can play all over the line. And yeah, then the 3 technique, we've said this, yeah, move some people around. But let's see what else, right? There's a couple other players that we can get. I'm going to talk about one that we have not talked yet about on this show, and I've seen him in the second. He typically goes out there second and third, so he's right in that prime like Bears range. And that's Gervin Dexter, defensive tackle out of Florida. He
Gervin.
came yeah, yeah, right. I almost want to just call him Gervon. Gervon is a lot cooler. Gervon. Gervin
Gervin.
Dexter, out junior out of Florida. We'll just call him Dexter. 6'6", 312. This dude was one of the best defensive tackle prospects coming out of high school and was seen as this just crazy athlete. And when you see him, he just casually has good bend. He casually has good power. He's going in the second and third, came out early. Might be like, why is this like top recruit coming out? Because he hasn't had a lot of production. In 2020, he played 12 games, 250 snaps, no sacks. Then in 2021 had 4 sacks, so a little bit better. Then in 2022 only had 2 sacks. And when you put on the tape, not great. And the big thing that scares me is PayPal. I don't know if you watch like his get off. It's comically bad. Like it's
Really?
literally like, you know, when you were a kid and you'd pretend to smack someone's face and then you'd be like, a good actor's this, a bad actor is, and it's like slap.
Oh, yeah,
And then like it takes a second and then they look the
and you
other way.
move.
That's Gervin Dexter on the line. Like they snap the ball, literally everybody gets off, and then it's like a full second, and then he gets off. It's terrible. Like I've never seen someone that is consistently that slow getting off the line. But here's the thing: like the dude does not use his hands. He's just an insane athlete. Like I don't know what it is. He's just a man. He just blows by people. He's got this crazy strength. And that's what's so interesting. He got a 9.69 from the RAS score, which is means phenomenal athlete, right? It's out of 10. And he comps to Kevin Williams, one of the Williams Wall people, if you remember those guys out of the Minnesota Vikings. This guy's crazy. 4.88 40 time that he ran at 310, like 6'5".
Wow.
So the dude is fast, 1.7 10-yard split. So he at least had good get off there. But there's just so many question marks about his game, but the talent is there. The ball of potential is there. Strong, powerful, but there's all these flags, and that's why he reminds me of Rashid Hageman out of Minnesota, where I remember watching his tape going, this guy literally is just trying to run straight, and he's not doing anything special. And Hageman was not a good player for the Patriots, and I think also the Falcons.
Mhm.
But that's where, to me, Dexter, I'm not a big fan of. Even though that he seems to have this potential, I just don't love it. Influence coaching and other things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, we talked about it before. We don't know if we have the best coach, defensive line coach, sorry. Um, and two, it's like I don't like hearing when you're a, 5-star recruit and, you have all this promise, and it's like, obviously, because he's just probably huge, like, that's why he's a 5-star
Yeah.
recruit, like, it was probably not of his skill, it's like, alright, he's just bigger than everyone else, and then it's like, okay, he's bigger than everyone else in college, so then he can kinda shove people around, not use any technique again, and then he comes to the NFL, and then he's like, "Well, now I actually have to try to learn some stuff," and then he kinda gets screwed, so I I just don't like when someone is that highly touted and then
Yeah.
never, like, learns anything. And then it's like, okay, then how is he supposed to learn when he's, you know, in the NFL? So, that's something that I I I'm not a huge fan, but his some of his stuff is pretty fun
It
to
is
watch. It's like his
entertaining.
highlights. It's just fun
Yeah.
to watch. Like, yeah, because he just shoves people. It's like
It's
he's just huge.
it's crazy. Like it's mind-boggling. You just watch some of when it actually succeeds, you're like, this dude could be something special. Like as soon as I
Yeah,
put on the tape, you're like, wow. And then you go, wait a second. Wow, you don't use any hands. Wow, you are
yeah,
getting off the line. Like it just the picture that we have on the graphic is him like just drenched in sweat. Like it looks like he's panting. That's what it seems like every time he went up at the line. But I had to pull up his high school stuff. He was the number 1 player out of Florida. He was the number 12 uh player in all of the country. So like very highly touted
yeah,
coming out, but yeah, just didn't do anything really that impressive. So yeah, it's the potential thing. That's why he's going second and third. I could see him actually I could still see people like looking at the potential and being like, I can do something with him. I just don't think it's the Bears, but wanted to at least call him out because he is high on a lot of different draft boards, and that's what we're here for. At least
mhm.
outlining a little bit of that more. But let's go to another person. Another one of the PayPal
Another
boys.
big person you're talking about.
And another fat boy that you love. But actually, when we were having pizza, you were saying not as much love as you were before. Siaki Ika, defensive tackle out of Baylor, junior, 6'4", 358. As we talked about, every big boy comp, Danny Shelton, you name it, he's kind of that. But athletically does kind of comp to Snacks Harrison, Damon Harrison, the notable run stuffing defensive tackle. Siaki Ika, 2.6 out of 10. So just kind of confirms not as athletic, but more athletic than Damon Harrison, who got a 1.74. But PayPal, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, I'm feeling not as great. I mean, I just feel like I've matured as a football fan. I'm looking
You're
at
so much wiser. Yeah,
so much wiser now. Like I'm looking at, like does he fit with our guys or scheme? And like that's where I really like point. Like I really like Keanu Ben. Like because you said it's like he's very versatile. We could use him in a lot of areas in our defense. And Siaki Ika, I just think of like who is that guy we had when in the Nagy era?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
gosh,
yeah.
what was his name?
I
But
can't.
but it was
Yeah,
kind of like, all right, he wasn't.
Tonga.
Yeah, Kyrie's Tonga, and it was like Tonga's not terrible, but you use a player like that in just very limited amount of reps. Like they're not out
True.
there affecting the play as much as say as like a Keanu Benner, any of the guys like Elijah Cansey or any of those guys that would be on the field a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like using a second round for a guy that I don't think would be affecting the game like a lot. That's kind of weary, but I it's not like I don't think he's bad. I still think he's great. I like his size, obviously, and he's like you kind of just said, he's kind of athletic. He's beating out these people on the athletic score, so he's quick for his size. I mean, still not the fastest guy with a 5'3", 940, but who cares about your speed when you're in the trenches? I mean, it's about strength and pushing guys and kind of getting that first step, and that's it. So I still like him, but it's just for this team, I don't know if he fits.
I think the big thing too is like he projects as a nose tackle, right? And when we
Yeah.
talk about Eddie Goldman, nose tackle, and he lined up a lot. Like the big difference with the nose tackle is what's asked of the nose tackle is you play the zero tech right above the center or the one tech just outside the center's shoulder. While at least like in our system, you're playing more of like a one tech or maybe like a five tech. Like you're trying to take on multiple people, but it's typically a one tech. And so Ika though, as a nose tackle, yeah, it's nerve wracking, right? And I think that,
Mhm.
if somebody points to Vita Vea, right, what happened with him? Vita Vea was an all-time combine for someone his size. Like just the
Yeah.
athleticism scores were crazy. And that's where like Danny Shelton, a lot of people like had this fear of like the big boy that comes out and just eats these blockers to your point. And yeah, Ika doesn't necessarily fit it. And it's especially, we haven't even talked much about this. Ika's most likely going in that second round. And I think maybe because of his combine might kind of trickle into that third round, but still in the Bears' sweet spot, right? For day 2. And it's like, I'd rather have Benton. And if Benton goes earlier, then maybe, but I just think that overall,
Mhm.
Ika probably not as great of a scheme fit as we really would
Yeah.
like to have out there. So let's keep on moving through though, and let's go through some later round guys, right? Because we mentioned a couple of the earlier round players. One player that might go a little bit earlier that we aren't necessarily covering today for this is Moro Ojomo out of Texas, and he's a defensive tackle. He's more of a fit inside of a 3-4, like he's more of that true 3-4 D end. And that's where we're not necessarily covering him, even though I do love Texas. Unfortunately, we're not covering him because of the scheme fit. But let's go to the later rounds, right? Day 3. Are there some people out there? I'll start things off with someone who the Bears were talking with a lot. I believe that they talked to him on 2 separate occasions. This is another highly touted prospect coming out of high school, and that's Zach Pickens out of South Carolina. 6'4", 291. And PayPal, here's another guy that's, not 300 as we talk about. Like, it's so different when you're actually kind of calling it out. Like,
yeah,
all right,
right.
8 pounds is still 8 pounds. But yeah, Zach Pickens, 6'4", 291. A lot of people like this guy. The comp I've seen out there is Mo Hurst. Very good player coming out of Michigan back in the day. Zach Pickens projected to go in the 4th and 5th round. And I think a big thing is he's kind of your cheap 3 technique if you want to get. He's highly athletic, but the big question is his motor. There's some that seems like he's just giving up. And there's times too, he's just like, I haven't seen stuff like this where he just literally will give up and he's got to play and he just stops. Like, the
Oh my
motor is a
gosh.
huge question mark, but the athleticism, like I said, highly touted coming out of high school. His athletic comp is Quinnen Williams. Now, Quinnen Williams did do better overall, especially with being 303 versus 291, but Quinnen Williams had a 4.83. Zach Pickens, 4.89. And same 10-yard splits at 1.67. So, and then vertical 30.5 and Quinnen Williams 30.5 as well. So Pickens, good athlete. We know this. And I think that's the question. I think that's also why the Bears wanted to talk to him, understand who this man is. Why was he taking off of plays and really get to know him as a person? So I love that the Bears at least did this because, yeah, former top 20 recruit and, yeah, 11 hurries last year. He's got those flashes of being that talented player, being that first round type of player, but just the motor, the kind of giving up. That's a big red flag. So
Yeah, that's not gonna fly. It's not gonna fly in the Eberflus system,
It won't. It's that thing. If you can, I think this is different where if you just can get him constantly trying, like, it's more of a motor issue than, I mean, you could still get better from a technique perspective, but if you can just get him out there and keep trying, you could have a pretty special talent at that 3 technique. And I
Yeah.
know that the Bears would be all over that. So you don't have to use early draft capital around 1, because if your round 1 is going to offensive tackle and you get Keanu Benton, right? Then you can get a Zach Pickens in the 4th and the 5th. And if he can turn into something special, he's got the upside. And I think
Mhm.
that's what's kind of intriguing about Zach Pickens.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, Eberflus system, I don't think he's gonna fly. And maybe, yeah, maybe they think that they could change that in him. I mean, and maybe he would freaking quit the first week of playing with Eberflus because he just wouldn't be able to take training camp, because it'd just be too. I mean, I remember the first that quote when Eberflus came in of like, these are going to be like the toughest, like, this is gonna
Yeah.
be the toughest month of your life or whatever.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine if you tell this guy that and then he just is gonna be like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And I actually have to try,
Him and him and Gervin. Good
Yeah,
old
him and
Gervin.
Gervin. They're like, oh god, I don't wanna get
I
sweaty.
don't wanna do this. Yeah, I don't wanna do this, guys. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's go to another person. This person, I think, is on the opposite end. I really like this person from a personality perspective. I don't know why I watched more like this guy talking and this guy singing as well. I
Mm,
sent I sent you over some of the tape and we haven't talked about him much. So I'm really intrigued to hear what you think about this guy, Kobe Turner, Wake Forest defensive tackle, senior, 6'3", 290, and he's projected to go day 3. I've seen him as, I think PFF, they love him. They have him as the 100th ranked prospect. But you look other spots, I swear I think it's because people just don't watch his tape. He's 300th. He's 400th. Like, it's such a wide range as to where this guy's going. But what did you think about him, and what can you tell us about
yeah.
him?
I mean, I just watching a video of, yeah, it was him basically, yeah, breaking down his film with these two other guys on their show, and just the first thing that just comes out is his personality, and it's
Yeah.
such a weird thing, but like that's huge. Just with that later round pick of like this is someone that's gonna you hopefully develop. Like there's definitely gonna be some weaknesses in there, and he just has everything that we see that the Bears picked up like in free agency. All the guys we picked up in free agency were all high character guys. Like I'm like, wow, all these guys like know their role, they're super smart, and they're team guys. And that's how Kobe Turner is. Like he would call, he's like, yeah, like I can't wait. Like some of the other players on the team, they look like great prospects for next year. And he's calling some of the guys out and just an overall positive guy. Yeah. Could belt out, great singer, all that stuff. But let's talk about his football. How good is he at football? But yeah, he's not as aggressive as you'd want him. But I mean, yeah, PFF has him graded very, very well. I think he's got great hands. That's his athleticism isn't off the charts or as much as you'd want, but it's like he's got that smart play style where it's like you can tell he knows what he's trying to do. It's just like with athleticism, it's like, can he really do it yet? Like, that kind of inhibits his potential, I feel, for me.
Yeah, and that's why I was curious to see what you thought of him, because the more that I watch, first off, his tape is hard to find, and when you do find it, because like I said, he's not really highly touted. I could see the Bears falling in love with this guy.
Oh yeah,
you hear him talking, he's very humble. He just seems like a regular guy out there that just likes football, right?
mm-hmm.
27 run stops. His run defense is insane. Last year, his grade 93.1, which is absurd at a run defense grade. And the biggest reason, I've never seen somebody so good with their hands on the run. Like, you see it time and time again. Someone's trying to block him, and he just literally just aggressively pushes the hands out of the
Yeah.
way. And there's one play that I remember, a tackle comes up to him, and he it looks like a bad ninja movie. It just looks comically, like he just smacks the hands out of the way and the person just runs right by him, or like the offensive tackle just can't even touch him. And then he takes the other hand and just slaps the other person's hands. And he's like wide open with the running back and takes down the running back. He smacks two offensive linemen off of him. It's just crazy. And he's a 3 technique that can stop the run. And I think you don't really see that, because everybody that we've talked about playing 3 tech, Cansey can do some of that, but Kobe Turner really is a hand fighter in the trenches and can get some stops. Yeah, PFF loves him. Always kind of graded him at that elite spot. That's why he's so high on their board. Crazy part is his hands are absolutely nuts on defense. 11.5% run defense stop, which is yet again off the charts, amazing. 14.7% pass rush win rate, another amazing stat at D tackle. But I want to see him use his hand, like these amazing hands, in the run, in the pass game a little bit better. And I think the reason why is when he smacks the hands, he's not like moving forward as he's doing it. So that's why in the run, I think he can get away with it a little bit more, because he can kind of smack the hands away, break down, and make the tackle. While in the passing game, he needs to just get better at keeping his feet churning as he's kind of smacking the hands away. But also, we haven't even mentioned this, 4 years at Richmond before transferring over to Wake. Yeah, I think that this is someone that just keep an eye out for this guy. I think as a later round guy, he does it all, and it's worth taking a shot at a player like this that seemingly is going under everyone's radar, didn't even get invited to the combine. So that just kind of shows why he's kind of flying under the radar.
Yeah, it's something so little, but like just having him, like hearing him talk, like if anyone hasn't seen anything on him, I'll just watch that video of like just simply being a great person, and
search for him. Yeah.
like seeing how smart and a great guy he is, it's weird how that just translates. It's like, okay, like he just knows, yeah, it's like using his something as simple as using his hands. It's like he picks up on it, but then someone, a 5-star recruit out of Florida, Gervin Dexter can't figure out. You know what I mean? It's like someone that it's that I don't know that another level of like intelligence that I love to see out of this guy.
Yeah. So let's keep on moving forward. We got 3 more late round targets to kind of look at. Let's go with Jaquelin Roy, LSU defensive tackle, junior, 6'3", 305. He's kind of seen as a fat boy, but that's where he's kind of like a BJ Hill fat boy, where he's not like absolutely enormous, but he plays enormous. He's got a lot of the physical tools, good strength to him, projected to kind of go in that 4th and 5th round. PayPal, I know that you kind of like some of the fat boys. You want to take him? Otherwise, you could take the next guy. We got a fatter boy for you if you want
Hey,
him next.
Brad, if I'm going fat boy, I'm going fat boy.
Okay,
Like
okay. You
this
can,
guy, this guy,
yeah.
this guy is not,
He's not fat enough for
he's
you.
not even fat. He's lighter than Keanu Benton, and I
He
don't
is.
even consider Keanu Benton being a fat boy.
Yeah, he
So
he is though. Like honestly, he kind of has this fat boy like moniker
yeah,
to him. Like
yeah,
everyone's
just
kind of saying that. Yeah, he played a lot of nose in college at LSU, but yeah, with him having that lighter frame, like yeah, 6'3", 305. That's not necessarily a nose tackle type of a build, but he does play very well against the run. Good hands as well, like very, very good hands as kind of that one tech um right in the middle. But yeah,
mhm.
hurries 20 in 2022, 22 in 2021, and 17 in 2020. Just really had a tough time though getting to the actual quarterback. 2 sacks last year, 2 sacks the year before, and 1 the year before that. But it's good to see that he's still at least pressuring the quarterback. But yeah, 1 year as a true starter for LSU. Before that, had 497 snaps. But so it was still a good amount, even though he wasn't the true quote unquote starter. He still had a handful of snaps. And honestly, 675 snaps for a nose tackle, that's a lot. So he
Yeah.
was out there doing well, did everything on tape. I think that this guy is going to be a player in the NFL. He shows everything that you want on tape. But yeah, he doesn't have kind of that great line of scrimmage strength. And that's why you kind of see him dropping more into the 4th to the 5th round. But he is someone that could really kind of round out this defensive line room. But I just don't see the absolute tremendous upside. Just seems to be a player in the NFL that could probably stick around to some rosters.
Yeah, it's kind of that weird mix of like, okay, yeah, is he a nose tackle? But then if he's not a nose
Yeah.
tackle, then it's like, all right, then what can you really use him at? Because
He's
I bet that's kind of all he's really known, or it's like that's kind of what he's been doing in college. So,
he's
I the wider frame, I guess it kind of fits more for our scheme of like, all right,
true.
if
Very
we
good
still
point.
want a
Yeah.
run defender, it's like, or a run defense guy. It's like, all right, we have him, and it's not like this pure nose tackle guy, like Saika Ika, where it's like, all right,
Yeah.
he's just gonna be in there for running downs.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So let's go to the fat boy then. And
Oh
let's go
yeah.
to the true fat boy then. We have to go through one UT guy out of Texas, Keandre Coburn, defensive tackle out of Texas, senior, 6'2", 332. So this boy's
Oh
got the
yeah.
beef. Comp is Dan Williams. He's projected to go in the 4th round. I've seen him sometimes in the 5th as well. So someone that we can wait in the 4th round, or if we absolutely want him. But yeah, big guy, powerful guy. But PayPal, what do you say about this fat boy?
The best part about this fat boy, Brad, is that sometimes Seiki, he's 6'4" and he's like 350. This guy's 6'2" and 330, so he's a lot more squished. So he definitely is a lot.
Yeah.
He's a lot more. He looks a lot more of a like the fridge, or he looks a lot more squished down fat boy, which I always just from a look perspective I like better. Um, But yeah, this is where I like getting a guy like this, you know, in like a 4th round of like, okay, you're not using this guy every down, but say for running downs or, when it's a goal line stop that you need to try to do, it's like put this guy in. And because yeah, we saw from the other guy, it's like he didn't have many snaps beforehand. Um, just because you're a specific use for a
Yeah.
team. Um, but still, like Saika, it's like he has good speed for his big size. It's just kind of that consistency of like, can he makes these good plays, but then he doesn't really do it too often.
Yeah, that's the big thing because even I'm looking at where he was projected to get drafted during the college football season, and at the end of the college football season, he was projected to be a second round pick. And
Wow.
now he's plummeting. He was projected to go, let's see where this was. This was in January. He was projected to go 55th was typically where he was going. Now he's projected to go 134. And so
Wow.
plummeted down. And yeah, the biggest thing is you watch the tape. When you watch the tape, this guy had the amazing highlights. I said he looks like a fridge on rollerblades sometimes. Like he's just the speed is like you're like, dang, fat boy, run. Like he's fast, he's speedy, he's quick, he's got that, and he looks like a first rounder when you watch the highlights, but then when you watch the tape, you see that he looks more like a 4th rounder. And that's where the consistency comes in. But man, he could be something special if he can get that consistency, and I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, right? And that's the hard part is he this fridge on rollerblades, or is he the guy that's getting stopped and not really moving as much?
She it's weird. I think the high effort, something that I think that just it's good is like hopefully we could, because he has that inconsistent, like, all right, he's just running crazy. It's like, all right, he might get past a guy, but it's like, all right, well, you did nothing by getting past this guy. It's kind of like uh
Gervin?
the no, Gervin is the guy we had from Indianapolis that we signed last year. It's like
Oh, yeah.
he'd get past his man, and then it would be like, all right, well, you got past your man, but the running back just ran past you or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
It's like you did nothing. That's where it's like, if we could maybe lead his high effort into doing something a little bit more productive, like, you know, getting in the right position or just, you doing something a little better. I think that could, you know, make him into this freak of a player. From the 4th round. So I like getting a guy like this in the 4th round rather than
Yeah.
2nd.
I think it's intriguing, right? Like the upside is all there, and I think too, yes, we have Billings, and I think this is a good like kind of backup to Billings that they can switch it. And Billings also only has a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
He's kind of that he's billed as that now like 1 year a deal, like 1 year guy. But yeah, I think that Coburn very interesting prospect, like we've said, and kind of projects as like Richard Seals. Probably not a lot of people know him. Did his combine
Mhm.
when you were born, PayPal back in
Oh,
2000. um, but yeah, just a bigger, strong type of a player. Yeah, still a 5'2", 240 is not bad for someone his size. And the 10-yard split of 177 isn't terrible. So, like we said, Fat Boy can run. I think rather than roller skates, it's probably more ice skates because he's goes absolutely nuts. But if it's in the wrong game, all of a sudden he's running around in ice skates in the grass, and it just doesn't
mhm.
work out. But let's go over to our last one out there. We've brought him up before. This is more of a 4th round type of a player. I see him as like the Atabare, uh, the off-brand Atabare, and that is Carl Brooks, defensive line out of Bowling Green, senior, 6'4", 300 pounds. Um, last year, PFF grade of 93 overall. He's projected to kind of go in the 3rd, 4th. That's why kind of have him as more of a later round. PFF super high on him, but other draft boards maybe not as much, and that's why I think that ultimately he'd be more of that 4th round type of a guy. So he projects more as that 3 technique. So a lot of the guys that we've been talking about before, I mean, Pickens, we said, and then also Kobe, they're more 3 techniques. The last 2 more that, kind of that one tech, the body eater, the Spice Adams, and this is more of
Yeah.
the Tommy Harris, where, oh yeah, I still haven't updated the strength. He's a good athlete. He is a good athlete overall, but yeah, projects to the 3 tech, has good quickness as a D tackle, but the biggest fear is, at least with Adebawore, he's played some D tackle. This guy, Carl Brooks, not so much. But that's where he went out to the Senior Bowl and tried playing a little bit more of that D tackle, kind of tried to showcase more of that versatility because Bowling Green did not ask him to do that. But still, good production, 12 sacks last year and 8 the year before. But PayPal, what do you think about him?
Yeah, I like him. I'd never heard about him till like a week ago when you really mentioned him. And yeah, he's a phenomenal player. Like he's explosive, and that's where it proves the point. Like just talking about, guys like this of, getting a good 3 tech guy that can still disrupt plays, not with our 9th pick in the draft and getting it with, in the 3rd, 4th round, and getting that kind of value, um, which I kinda like Carl Brooks, I think he will be disruptive, uh, if we do draft him, like, he's got it all. He's got all that talent, but like you said, it's just he doesn't know the position as much as he should yet.
Yeah, and one thing too is, just like now I actually pulled up the stats. What I was talking about with him playing D tackle compared to Adebawore is, with Adebawore, he had 261 snaps at 3 technique last year and 374 at outside tackle, so more at the
Mm,
defensive end spot. But if we switch over to Carl Brooks had 387 outside snaps outside of tackle and 41 at the 3 technique.
wow.
Now, he had 231 over the tackle, which is, more inside, but it's still not like a true D tackle. Like you're
Yeah.
playing more inside, but yeah, not so much. So that's where it is going to be a little bit of a transition. It's more of a projection, but that's where at the Senior Bowl, did he showcase anything like that? Hopefully they saw something from him in like one-on-ones where they go, listen, I know that he hasn't played this, but he should slot easily as a defensive tackle. But another guy that did not get, and here's someone who did not get a scouting combine invite, and I was a little bit shocked at that because it's not just kind of like with Kobe where it's really PFF and like another draft source that are high on him. Carl Brooks is someone who is relatively highly sought after, based on his tape at Bowling Green. So a little kind of flying under the radar, might just be kind of one of those miscellaneous day 3 types of players. And let me see if I can kind of see where he has been going overall. Overall, yeah, like right at the beginning, or yeah, right at the tail end of the 3rd round. So we'll see what ends up happening. 25% drafted to the Chicago Bears. So
Wow.
seems like us Bears fans are taking note
Wow.
and looking at them. But that about does it for our defensive tackle. So hopefully you learned something. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Like we said, we've pre-recorded all of these. So if you appreciate that, please rate 5 stars, because hey, we've been talking for about 3 hours and man, I need some more water. I need some tea.
I am
Something.
shut eye.
Yeah, but better believe that we will have a new episode. We will be live on Sunday. So make sure to stay tuned. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you